Welcome to More Than a Few Words, a marketing conversation. This is Lynn. I'm your host, Lorraine Ball, and I have said that phrase in one form or another for more than 15 years. And we are not going to talk about my history in podcasting and all the weaving and winding paths, because you know what? Most of it's irrelevant. What I really want to talk about is where podcasting is today and why you need a podcast. I want to talk about how you get started. I want to talk about some of the things that you should consider along the way, how to promote this once you get it started. Because if you create a podcast and it's all by yourself, well, you don't promote it. You are talking to yourself, people. Now, that may make you feel really good, and that's okay. It's very therapeutic, and I think that's all right. But if you really have a message, if there's a reason that you're doing this, you want to make sure that you promote it and let people know it's out there. How to be a guest if you don't want to be a host, and maybe some mistakes to avoid. So let's get started. I am going to tell one story, though. How did I get started in podcasting? Almost 16 years ago, my intern walked into my office and he says, "Lorraine, you like to talk." Yeah, I do. You should have a podcast. What the heck? It's a podcast. Because it was a relatively new industry. Not that new. Somebody told me that podcasting is actually 22 years old, and the 22nd anniversary was sometime this summer. But it was still relatively new. It was still pretty small. There were not a lot of people that were podcasting at that point. And I went like, it won't cost me too much. Go ahead and figure it out and we'll do this. And that's where we started. I didn't really know why I was doing it. I really didn't know what I was setting out to do. This is not best practice, people. Okay? If you're going to have a podcast, the first thing you really have to figure out is why. How does it fit into what you're doing? How does it support? How does it take you in a new direction? Now, there are a lot of things that a podcast can do. Number one, it lets you talk to thousands of people and make it feel like it's a one-on-one conversation. It has an intimacy that a blog post doesn't have. It has an intimacy that a social media post doesn't have. You're in their ears. And there's something about that allows you to really have those conversations. It helps establish you as a subject matter expert. These days, let's face it, I know I'm moving around, it's going to make you crazy, sorry. I'm not going to stand still. The only time I don't move when I'm talking is when I'm podcasting, because I sit my little body in a chair and I get the camera right. Any other time, if I'm talking, I'm moving. Okay, it allows you to compete in a world where, let's face it, these days, AI is blanding everything. There are AI blog posts, there are AI social media posts, everything is starting to sound, the same. If you want to stand out, podcasting is a great way to do it because it is original messages. It is in your own language. I was destined to be a podcaster because long before I was a podcaster, I was a blogger. And you know how I wrote my blog posts? I would go for a walk and I would dictate because I think out loud. And then I would hand it to my assistant and say, turn this into a blog post. I was a podcaster before. And at that point, I really was only talking to one person. But it was a great way to create unique content that only you could create, your opinion, your voice, your way of telling the story. And it allows you to stand out. Long form is the new black. Everybody is creating shorts. In case you're curious, shorts are exhausting. Sitting there and creating multiple shorts is exhausting. You know what's not exhausting? Creating one long form video and uploading it to Opus Pro and saying, pick the best 5 shorts for me, please. Go ahead and caption those. Oh, I should mention, if I refer to a tool, if you scan that QR code, it'll just take you to a landing page on my website where there are links to all the tools. So you don't have to write them down. You don't have to worry about the URLs. It's all right there. Just don't lose the card. Okay. So One one podcast can become 5 or 6 shorts. It can become a blog post. Because you know what else you can do? You can transcribe that episode. You take the audio file. There are all sorts of paid transcription tools. You know what there also is? If you have a subscription to Microsoft Word, you can upload that transcript to Microsoft, or that audio file to Microsoft Word. It'll give you a transcript. Then you take it over to ChatGPT and you say, hey, do me a favor and summarize this. You're well on your way to that blog post that supports that podcast that you've just created. You want social media shorts, guests, or social media posts? Really easy once you've got the long form. You start with the long form, and these days podcasting is a wonderful, wonderful long form product. You can learn as you go with podcasting. You don't have to be an expert. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite reasons for having a podcast is getting an excuse to reach out to people that I admire, that I respect, that I think are top of their game. I was fangirling not all that long ago because there's a guy by the name of Vince Warnock who is really a great marketer. He's funny. I think he's from Australia, so he's got a great accent too. I loved listening to him. And we ended up in a podcasters chat group. And I had been trying to get on his show. I'd applied like 3 times. But we were in this group, we were talking, and I got him to be on my show, I got to be on his show, and it was wonderful because, again, I learned something new. So much of what I'm doing with AI right now, I have learned from my guests. So much of what I'm doing with what's happening with changes in SEO and things like that, I'm learning in 10-minute conversations with my guests, and I would not trade that. You can also use podcasts not just to tell your story, but as a sales tool, as a way to open doors. Want to talk to CEOs? Create a podcast where you interview them. A friend of mine did this with local small businesses. She was up in the Syracuse area, and she created a podcast. Her market was small businesses. She wanted to create events for small businesses. And so what did she do? She created a podcast, and she'd call up a business owner and say, hey, I'm profiling businesses in the community. Would you like to come talk to me? We can talk about how you're marketing your business, what's working and what's not working. It's a sales conversation without being a sales conversation. She's building the relationships. She's building the know, like, and trust factor. In this market, Matt Nettleton's doing the same thing. He's a sales coach, and he keeps inviting people on. Some are clients, some are people he wants to be clients, and he interviews them. And that's the amazing thing. You call up that CEO, they don't have time for you. You want to make a sales call? I ain't got time for you. Oh, you're going to interview me? It's going to be a podcast? The whole dynamic changes. It opens doors for you. It is an opportunity to create those conversations and to build that know, like, trust factor, which, let's face it, as marketers, we're trying to do that all day long. Now, one of the things you may not see on this list in terms of why to start a podcast is make money. Because I'm going to be honest with you. Driving revenue specifically from the podcast is a challenge. Well, I'm going to start this podcast and then I'm going to have advertisers. Great. If you are lucky enough to get to 1,000 downloads a month, you might be able to qualify for insertion ads that usually pay about $1 each. And they are inserted into your podcast where the network thinks it needs to be. I have a 10-minute show. I am not going to drop a 1-minute commercial in the middle of my show. Now, you can specify industries that are okay and things that aren't. You can specify so you can control so you don't offend your audience. But for me, it was in the format of my show, it was disruptive. So that doesn't work for me. Now, if you're lucky enough to get up around 10,000 downloads a month, which is really hard, you might get the attention of advertisers who will pay $25, $30 an insertion. Maybe a few dollars more. So unless you are really at the top of the podcast pyramid, ad revenue, just like ad revenue on YouTube, many of us have YouTube channels. How many of you are monetizing your YouTube channel? How many of you even qualify to have that conversation? Not a lot. And so the illusion that this is going to be a get-rich-quick scheme, doesn't mean you can't make money from podcasting, just not directly. If there are products that you represent, that you believe in, affiliate sales, you have an opportunity to promote those products without being, if you do it too much and too shameless, your audience is going elsewhere. But if you casually mention it during a conversation. The other thing, all that content that you're creating can go somewhere. This is a collection of 18 essays by people who were guests on my podcast. I sell it on Amazon. I have 3 copies here today, and if you give me your business card, we'll do a little drawing. 3 of you will go home with a copy of the book. The rest of you will have to go to my website and buy it. Okay. Number 1, this was fun promotion. Number 2, I made a few pennies, so that was good. And because it's Amazon, the Kindle on Direct, I had like no expense other than my time, so this worked for me. But the other thing this did is I introduced all 18 of my guests to each other. And I became the center point of that conversation. They appeared on each other's shows. Some of them have worked together. 2 of them are in some obscure part of Australia, didn't even know each other. They're friends now. It's a lovely thing. That's what networking is about. That's why you come to events like this. And so using podcasting to strengthen that network and make a little money along the way. Okay, so I've got you thinking, maybe you want to do this. It wants me to enter a master password. I think I was quiet too long. Or I stayed on one slide too long. There we are. Okay. First thing is, and at the top of all of this, definitely the why. How is it going to fit? Are you going to use it as a lead generation tool? Are you going to use it as a resource for your customers? Are you going to use it as a way to connect with your community? What are you trying to do? Are you passionate about something and you just want to get a message out there? All valid reasons. Just know why you're doing it. Start small. If you think you're going to do a podcast, record 5 or 6 episodes before you launch. Know what it takes. Understand how long it takes. How does it fit into your schedule so that you don't commit to a schedule that burns you out. If one episode, for whatever reason, takes you 2 hours, oh my God, don't plan 3 episodes a week. It's crazy. The other thing is, you're going to get going and you're hopefully going to be in a rhythm, but you're going to have that moment where I need a little time off. I can't tell you, the vast majority of podcasts currently on iTunes have less than 100 episodes, and most of them have not had an episode in more than 2 years. People get all excited and start, and then find out it's work. Or find out it doesn't fit, or it's not doing what they wanted. So start small, 5 or 6 episodes, figure out what it's going to take, and then decide, I'm only going to do 1 of these a month. Okay. I'm only going to do 1 of these every 2 weeks. Fine. I'm going to do a daily marketing minute. Good luck with that. Tried that. I can tell you that was exhausting and well not worth the effort. Consistency beats perfection. These days, most media is disposable. Unless it's really awful, people will forgive you. There's an authenticity and a realism of podcasting. Typically, I shoot both video and audio. Unless something goes really wrong, I tell my guests the video's going up as is. I had somebody who looked at me in the middle of an interview and went, I have no idea what I'm going to say next. Okay, let me get the timestamp, catch your breath, and we'll start again. And I was able to take that out. But other than that, I don't. Now, the audio, I tend to be a little more critical. I still do a light edit. I don't want to change it too much because then it doesn't sound real. But if I end up in a conversation with somebody who really can't figure out what they were going to talk about, number one, I'm hating my life through the interview, and number two, I'm going to hate my life in the edit bay. But I let the little mistakes go by because they're real, they fly by in a second. You will spend way more time trying to make it perfect, and it's okay if it's not. Listen to your favorite podcasts, unless it is one of the real NPR broadcast shows. It's conversational. They interrupt each other, and it's okay. You got to stay focused on why you're doing this, and that one, niche, isn't a dirty word. Let's talk about why I was doing this. As the podcast evolved, More Than a Few Words became a marketing conversation for business owners. Why? Because I was running an agency. I was trying to attract small business owners. And so we were putting out these marketing tips and marketing education, and we wanted our clients and potential clients to listen to the show. It took me 15 years to figure out that was not my audience. 15 years, people. Earlier this year, it finally hit me. When we first started, Twitter was a thing, and we would live broadcast the episodes, and who would respond and interact with us on Twitter as we were live casting? It was my friends. It was my friends in the marketing community. When I think about what we're talking about on the show, my clients weren't listening. They were hiring me. The show was too techy. It was a little bit too in the weeds. Marketers loved it. Small business owners were like, yeah, that's nice that you have a podcast now. Can you do what you were talking about for me? 15 years. The show itself, the content is great. It had a following, and I was busy chasing the wrong audience. And so earlier this year, I shifted the focus. I haven't changed any of the episodes, haven't changed any of the conversations. I just changed the way I talk about it. It is a marketing conversation. It is for marketers. It's what's working, what's not working. It's about mistakes people have made along the way. My most successful series is called What Went Wrong? And I interview successful marketers about their one great flop. Those are my favorite. But I got really clear, and the funny thing was, as soon as I did that, everything changed. It got easier to write about it. It got easier to market it. So figuring out who you're really talking to, and don't be afraid of going niche. I thought small business would include everybody. You know. Even when I kind of narrowed it down to women business owners, startups, coaches, consultants, and marketers, even that was too broad. And if you think I'm exaggerating, I went to a podcast. Pod Indy does a quarterly meetup for podcasters, and there was a guy there. He has an amazing YouTube channel. Really great numbers. You know what his podcast is about? He is a notary, and he talks about notary stuff. How much can you possibly say? And how many people would care? You'd be amazed. Because he has found a niche. It is really narrow. If you're not a notary, you don't care. Obviously, if you're a notary, he's really popular. Now, he's also really funny, and he was a delight to listen to as he talked about his show. And I might listen just for the fun of it. But the point is, the more niche he got, the more his audience grew. So you don't have to talk to everybody. When you're trying to talk to business owners and marketers, or I love this, and this is one of my favorite networking criticisms. You go to a meeting and you ask somebody, well, so who's your target customer? Small to mid-sized businesses. How many times have you heard that? Okay, in case you're curious, those are not one audience. Small business owners and mid-sized business owners have very different needs and requirements. And it's the same thing in the podcast. If you're trying to talk to both of them, what do you end up doing? Episode 1 is for small business. Episode 2 is for mid-size. Episode 3 is for small. Well, if I come to your podcast and I'm like, okay, what's the latest episode? And I'm a small business, but the episode is really geared to mid-size, guess what? You've turned me off. I'm not coming back. If you pick one, every episode is about things that a small business owner cares about or things that a notary cares about. They feel at home and they're likely to stay and maybe even listen to 2 or 3 episodes. If you've really got 2 audiences, create 2 podcasts. It's the same amount of work, do them every other week, have 2 different channels. Sometimes you can cross over, like an episode that works for both, great. Put a new intro on and put it in both feeds. But don't create a situation where I come to your website or I come to your podcast and I don't find what I'm looking for because I won't come back. Listen to other podcasts. If you think you're going to be a podcaster, run the gamut. Go to iTunes or Spotify or wherever you go and look for not just podcasts in your niche. Listen to other podcasts. See, how do they set up the show? How do they begin? How do they run their episodes? What do you like? What don't you like? I have very specific preferences. I hate podcasts that start with 15 minutes of bro chat. 2 guys sitting around talking about what they did for the weekend. And I apologize, that sounds sexist, but it's almost always the bro podcasts that do that. And you're like, dude, just get to the point. You know what I do? I fast forward through the first 15 minutes. And if they're still chatting at minute 16, I'm done. I gave you your chance. Now, there are people that love that feel like they're part of that conversation. I'm not their audience. But I know that that's out there and I know that that's a format. So listen to a lot of different podcasts. Find out what you like. Find out what resonates, what makes sense, what you think you can do. Because if it's not your style, even if you're like, damn, I really like that format. If it's not your style, it's just not going to work. But it is your format. You said it. And it's okay to change your mind. Over the years, when we started out podcasting, it was very much internet radio. And most of the podcasts followed a very traditional format. 15-minute, let's do some commercial break, 15 minutes more. But there was a moment where we realized, you know what? There's no show on after us. If we go 40, so what? If we're done in 20, so what? That was really important to figure out because not all guests can carry a 30-minute interview. Some of them only have 20 minutes worth of content, and you need to be done and not try to stretch it out. My show is 10 minutes, and every now and then I find somebody who doesn't have 10 minutes worth of content, and I got to tell you, that's painful. We try to avoid that. We do try to avoid that, but it happens. We did a live call-in show. Oh my God, I will never do that again. We did that for about 6 months. It is hard. It's hard to get people to call in. And you know how like radio stations do it? There are 3 people there that are screening those calls. I was running an agency. I only had 5 employees at the time. I couldn't have 3 people screening calls, so everybody got through. Yeah. Don't recommend that. No. Want to completely lose control of your show? That's how to do it. Get comfortable with your own voice. Everybody listens to their voice and goes, don't like it. Get comfortable with it, but also, even if you're going to hire someone else to edit your shows, editing is not hard, by the way. I've been doing it for years. Editing your own shows is great because when you have to edit out every that you said, you learn to stop saying When you realize how often you say absolutely, you find a different segue to mix it up. And you learn to get comfortable with your voice. Also, it's amazing to me. People are like, oh my God, you have such a radio voice. I'm like, what is wrong with your ears? I'm a nasal New Yorker, please. Unless you're from Brooklyn, this does not sound good. But other people think it's fine, and obviously I have listeners, so I guess people are okay with it. So get comfortable with your voice. Use it as an opportunity to improve not only your podcasting, but your public speaking. I was always pretty comfortable in person. Remember, Neil thought I liked to talk, and that's how this all started. But I'm better now because I've had the practice. I have the opportunity to tell the stories and hear how they sound over and over again till I get them the way that I want them. The other thing is that you need to learn to shut up. When you have guests, when you invite someone to be on your podcast, people are coming to hear them. They want to hear your take on it. They want you to run a good interview. But don't compete with your guest for the airtime. Now, I do encourage my guests to come up for air. We'll talk in a minute about being a good guest and letting it be conversational, allowing me to ask questions because that also gives us great video clips that we can use to promote the episode. But recognize that the show is, you've invited someone to be on your show as a guest, make it about them. It is okay to do solo episodes. And there's a lot of podcasters that really advocate for that. Yes, you have 5 or 6 good interview shows, drop in a solo episode. Because you are an expert. And you've been given all this light to all of your guests and letting them shine. It's okay to create an episode where you shine. Now, you might want to do all the episodes yourself. I will tell you those get hard to listen to. Unless you're really funny or really compelling, 30 minutes of somebody talking to themselves, it's hard. 10 minutes, I can get away with it. 15 minutes, I don't even want to listen to me. Most of my episodes, my solos, my regular interviews run 10-ish. My solos are anywhere from 1 to 6 minutes. You may as well you can get in it. Remember I said, the daily 1-minute podcast, I wouldn't advocate it as a regular dose, but every now and then it's a great way to deliver just a little soundbite. Okay, so all of this sounds great, Lorraine. I want to be on podcasts. I want to get my message out there, but oh my God, this sounds like work. Well,
oh no.
The alternative is to be a guest. Now, I have a much easier time being a guest because I can offer a pod swap. Hey, I'd like to be on your show. Would you like to be on mine? But not everybody whose shows I guest on want me as a guest. Or not everybody whose shows I want to be a guest on, do I want them on my show. It's just not maybe a fit or the scheduling is wrong. I will still pitch. The trick is that if you want to get noticed, again, you got to be a little creative. There are a lot of people for X hundred or $1,000 will book you on so many podcasts. Please do not hire these people. I'm sure there's a good agency out there somewhere. I have yet to find them. When I realize I'm getting pitched by an agency, I almost always hit the decline button right away. I don't even bother because the guest has nothing invested in the conversation. They're more likely to show up because in their mind, they're paying to be on my show. I'm not being paid, but they're paying to be on my show, so they show up like they're doing me a favor. No, don't need you. They are less likely to promote the episode when it's gone. All of these things are bad guest behavior. So I just don't mess with them. If you want to be a guest on a podcast, do your homework. Listen to 1 or 2 episodes. Figure out what the show is about. And then figure out what you bring to the table. I use Podmatch. Again, link is in the on the page. And it is a database and a community of hosts and guests. Some people are both. Some people only host or only guest. That's your choice. And I get 3 matches every day. Hey, these 3 shows might be a good fit for you. Please don't just send me a note that says, hey, Podmatch suggested that I'd be a good guest for your show. Here's my profile. Tell me what you think. No. Do some homework. Hey, Mary said I'd be a good guest for your show. Let's have a conversation. Why? Tell me what you want to talk about. Tell me how that's relevant for my audience. Tell me what you're going to do when the show launches. Prove that you understand it is a collaboration. Every time you are on a podcast as a guest, go into it with the mindset that this is a collaboration. That when that show is over, they're going to give you resources. They're going to give you a little video snippet. They're going to give you a link to the show. You're going to promote the heck out of it because that's why you want to be on a podcast, right? So don't expect the host to do all the work. You won't get invited back. My best guests have been back multiple times. Why? Because every time they're on, I know I'm going to get a bump. I know they're going to be on every social media platform. They're going to put me in their newsletter. They're going to say, hey, this is where I was. This was a great conversation. Check out the rest of the podcast. Think about their audience, not just your agenda. I can't tell you how many times I'll have somebody come on. It's a 10-minute show and they have 10 minutes of points they want to make. Doesn't fit the format. And worse yet, if they go off track and what they want to push or promote doesn't fit my audience, now I'm stuck with an episode that I'm not excited about. I can usually steer them back on track, but I have had 2 times. I have over 1,100 episodes, so I've done this a lot. But I have had 2 recording sessions where I had to stop. I had to just stop and say, look, we are off track. I want this to be a good episode to reflect you well and to fit my audience. So here's how we get back on track. I'm going to throw away the last 3 minutes. It's not usable. And in both of those situations, I was lucky, it worked, but I was talking to somebody and he did that twice during an interview. Both times, and the second time he turned to the guy and he says, look, we can stop now. This is never going to air. You never want to have to do that as a host. You never want to hear that as a guest. So make sure you understand what the show's about, what they're trying to do, how you fit and bring value to that audience and to their show. Be gracious, be prepared. Don't show up and go, so glad to be here. What's your show about again? Okay, now I have a standard pitch just in case. Before we go live, before we start recording, this is my audience. This is what we're going to talk about. Here's how the show's going to work. But it also is nice when somebody comes out and goes, hey, I just listened to this episode or that episode. Is it going to be like that? Oh, we're going to have a good conversation. And treat these like seeds. You want to plant them. You want them to to populate, when you promote their show, it really reinforces their, I'm just looking at this because I think I skipped this. No, I didn't skip a slide. I talked about that. Anyway, it reinforces your authority. It really makes you, it gives you more credibility with your audience. You're not just a podcast host and airing this stuff because you're producing it. Somebody else cared enough about what you had to say to invite you along. There is, as you're thinking about doing it, there really is no perfect pitch. If you do it right, you're going to modify it. Full confession, I have a standard pitch that has a nice, hey, I love your show. This is what I think we have in common. Here's some topics that I can talk about, and here's how I'll promote it. Well, I take that standard pitch and I go to ChatGPT, and then I copy their Podmatch page that has all the details about the show, and I'm like, hey, take this, look at this show, and rewrite the pitch so it's more appropriate for this show. Do I still have to go in and tweak it? Yeah, but is it fast? Oh, yeah. And is it effective? Yes. I get invited to be on probably, I think right now I'm averaging 3 or 4 podcasts a month where I'm on somebody else's stage. And that works really well. Okay, here's my don'ts page. Winging it is not a strategy. Have a plan. Know what you're doing, when you're dropping your episodes, how you're going to promote it, how you're going to use that information. Don't bite off more than you can record. One of my favorite tricks, I record multiple episodes. I have certain days that I record and other days that I don't. Now, if somebody comes to me and says, hey, I can't fit your recording schedule, I look at where they're located. If they're in Australia, if they're in New Zealand, if they're in Eastern Europe, I will create time slots for them. If they're in Brooklyn, I'm like, yeah, sorry, that's when I record. But I let them stack up. And then I will edit 3, 4, 5 at a time, because again, I'm doing light edits, and I'll get them all stacked up. Then the next day, I'll do 5 transcripts. I'll do the 5 show notes. And so batching works really well, because then I can get them all scheduled. Right now, I'm scheduled through the end of September, and I have interviews that'll take me through the end of November. So I can be picky about who I have as a guest. I can be selective about which weeks I want to work on the show and which ones I don't. And that's where you want to get to. You want the podcast to fit into your schedule, not you fitting into the podcast schedule. That is one of the fastest ways to burn out. A lot of this is stuff I've said before, so I'm going to skip, but this one, if you're the star, you're doing it wrong. If you're doing an interview podcast, your guest is the star, but a great host. David Letterman is a great host. He asks wonderful questions. But when you watch the interview, you remember, if you have Netflix, My Next Guest with David Letterman. You remember the conversation with Miley Cyrus. You remember the conversation with Obama or Kim Kardashian. But what made it work was his skill as an interviewer. If you're gonna do an interview podcast, you want to get better at asking questions and listening. You don't want to be there with your 5 questions that you have to ask, and your guest has said something really interesting that you know your audience is going to want to hear more about, but you got these 3 questions all ready to go. Forget them. Follow the conversation. Let the show be what it is. Keep an eye on the clock, your timing, but don't be so logged in. Be prepared, but be flexible. And don't obsess about downloads. Unless you really think you're going to get to 10,000 downloads and sell advertising, don't worry about it. The right people will find you. It's how you use it. We would send podcast episodes to clients. Hey, this is the technology we were talking about. If after listening to this quick conversation, you want to know more, let's chat. I finally figured out that's how I used it in my sales pitch. It wasn't, oh, listen to this and then hire me. And don't forget your digital home base. It is really tempting to rely on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you host your podcast. But like any other piece of marketing, your website has to be that center point. Because I know it sounds crazy, but iTunes might go away tomorrow. Spotify might start charging you to host your podcast there. It could happen. But you know your website. You know what your costs are. You know how to distribute. And by using it for your podcast and other resources, it becomes a valuable tool. I've moved all my training onto my podcast website. I've moved my books onto my podcast website. I've moved everything, my consulting business, it all sits on my podcast website. Because at the end of the day, that's the asset I control. So, with that, I want to leave you with one thought. Let's see if I talked too long. Look at that, it worked that time. Podcasting isn't just a microphone and a message. It really is about the conversation. It's about consistency and connecting with an audience. One of the things I'm really working on now, and it's hard to get to that point of trying to get my audience to talk back to me, to send me a message, to chat with me. But that's really going to be my goal in the next year, is just to make it, again, that next level of intimacy and personal. Because that's why people come back. That's why they listen. And with that, thank you for listening. This has been another episode of More Than a Few Words. Look for it wherever you listen to podcasts. Okay. So, questions? I talked nonstop for 45 minutes. Big surprise. I like to talk. What do you think? Yes, sir.
What's your primary revenue source when you're driving these?
I ran a digital agency for 19 years and sold it. So I have the luxury at this point in my life to allow this to be what it is. It drives the occasional consulting contract, speaking gig, and I do get commissions. Most of the items listed on that page, they are products I use. They're not there just because I get a commission. I only take commissions on products that I actually use, so I make some affiliate sales. But again, for me, for where I am in my life, I'm not as concerned about it being a real revenue source. But the consulting business is nice. It's fun. It pays the bills. Good question. Yes, sir.
Me? Oh.
Yeah, I know. The sir surprised you.
Yes. How do you go about planning one of these?
A podcast?
Yeah. You outline it.
Do as I say, not as I did. No, well, I take it back. Now I do more planning. I look at, right now I'm on a weekly schedule, and I really like that. And so I think about, what have I talked about the last few weeks? So I may schedule a bunch of interviews, have the conversations, and then I will rearrange them because, oh my God, I've been talking about AI for 3 weeks. Nobody needs that much AI. Let's flip it around. I think part of it is I have a pretty rigid promotion schedule. My primary platform is LinkedIn. And so I create my platform for LinkedIn, and then I put what fits on other platforms. So Sunday, I actually started doing more of a personal fun question. What'd you do this weekend? What are you reading? What's your favorite hobby? That's Sunday. Monday is my newsletter. It's usually a roundup of 2 or 3 related interviews on the same topic. Again, 1100, I can have a new conversation on position statements and go back 10 years and have a conversation and share those again. Monday is my LinkedIn newsletter. Tuesday, I actually do the video version of the episode. I use the same video I put on YouTube. Wednesday, it's usually an offer. So that's my real selling day. And I usually try to kind of connect it to whatever the conversation was that week. Thursday and Saturday are shorts. And they may or may not be the shorts, and they're usually deliberately not the shorts tied to that week's episode. I'll get those later. And then Friday, I do a small biz chat with another friend of mine, so it's a related podcast. So I've got my week scheduled out, so it's really easy because then I can look at it and go, okay, where am I on shorts? Oh, I'm good on shorts for 3 weeks because remember, one 10-minute episode, I can get usually 3 good shorts. Maybe more, but nobody wants to hear that many times from that person. So there's that. In terms of the production side, again, right now, I usually, because I want to produce 4 episodes, I usually will do a week on, a week off, a week on, a week off for recording. So I'll get 2 episodes, and then the next week I'll do editing one day, transcripts, and promotion the next day. When I'm editing, I'll usually post on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and I'll create the shorts and have them stacked up. I use a scheduling tool, Publer, that allows me to have a nice visual calendar of where my holes are. And then a lot of this stuff, I'll be like, oh, that video can go on Facebook. So when I'm posting to LinkedIn, I can pick other channels. But that's because I've zeroed in on LinkedIn. Why? Because my audience is marketers. It's not small business owners. It's not the mom and pop shops. It's marketers, and they're on LinkedIn.
Ever use LinkedIn Live?
I have, and I actually interesting. We did LinkedIn Live for the small biz chat for 2 years, and I was using StreamYard, and they just doubled their rates, and I went, oh no. So I actually post the videos instead of live. I am getting more views and more engagement by putting my videos in the timeline than I was getting from LinkedIn Live, where the little messages were going out saying, hey, Lorraine is live. Why? Because LinkedIn is asynchronous. I'm on at 9 in the morning, and that's when I'm live. You're not. You don't think about going to look for it at 10. But if it's in my feed, you will see it at 10, at 2, tomorrow. And so I stopped doing LinkedIn Live.
Are they paying attention to that?
Is LinkedIn paying attention to that? I don't know. They did pay attention to the old post fiasco. They went through a period where if you were paying attention to your LinkedIn feed, you started seeing a lot of feeds from 2 and 3 weeks ago, and you were like, what is going on with this? And people started to complain. And LinkedIn said, well, we did this for you. I was supposed to take a break before questions, wasn't I?
That's fine.
Okay, sorry. We did this for you. Well, yeah, we don't want it. I don't want to see, well, but people don't come every day. That's all right. They'll find this. Stop doing this. And they actually announced they were backing off that. The other thing they just came out with is they have finally publicly admitted their hashtags are worthless. Hashtags were created for Twitter. They worked for conversation collection on that platform. They migrated seamlessly to Instagram before Facebook acquired them. They never worked right on Facebook. They never worked well on LinkedIn. You just looked stupid. And pretty much LinkedIn has come out and said, yeah, we don't really do hashtags well. No, you don't. And so our other indexing tools are much better. You can search for content and you will find it without the stupid hashtags. So, yeah, 2 things on there. Cool. All right. Any other questions? Okay, so I have 3 copies of the book with me. If you guys are interested, drop one of your business cards. We're going to take a break, and then when we come back, we'll do a little drawing. I have, like I said, 3 copies of the book. Thanks a lot, folks.
Everybody quickly, a round of applause for Lorraine.